Hello, everyone. How are you today? Welcome to our Silicon Dragon show. And we have a special guest today, Candice Brackeen. And hello, Matt. Hello, Candice. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Good. We're very glad to have you here. Okay. So a little bit about what we do. We have a newsletter, we have our show, we have our mobile app, and our membership. And of course, my books, 3 of them, and several of them are translated into various languages and Korean, Vietnamese, Chinese. So about 8 different languages for Tech Titans of China. It's my 3rd book. So stay tuned for book 4. Silicon Dragon Circle membership, there's your big S for you. You can sign up and come to any of our events, and we'll be going back to live at some point, hopefully some point before the end of the year. So anyhow, that's a little bit about us. And now I'm going to introduce Candice. So Candice, this is a little bit about Candice's background. I met her in Cincinnati last year at the Innovation Hub, and that's where she has her new VC fund based. It's also where you have the Hillman Accelerator, right, Candice?
That's right. Yeah, that's where we are when COVID's not around, but we'll launch that back again in July.
Okay. Well, she grew up in Toledo, and as some of you know, Ohio is my home state. So, I love focusing on Ohio too. And I love focusing on entrepreneurial people, and Candice definitely is one of those. She's the CEO and founder of her own mobile app, Hello Parent, which she ran for 2 years. And she's been the owner of the Body Boutique Studios, a fitness studio that migrated into a business boot camp. She has her BA in economics from the University of Cincinnati. So I was interested to find out that she's a kayaker and she loves restoring cars and homes. So tell us a little bit about your restoration of these cars and homes, Candice.
So I've always loved old cars. I have a picture of myself and my dad's old, 73 Baja Beetle. That'll be my next restoration. That one is a little bit more to tackle, but since the beginning, it's been sitting in his garage since I was a kid, and I always wanted to start restoring cars. So a couple of years ago, I started going to auctions and finding old cars, and I've just been restoring them through a restoration place here in my local area. And then late last year, I had the opportunity to buy a historic property, a Frank Lloyd Wright home. And so my spouse and I are in the middle of restoring that back to its original splendor, so we can bring people there and break bread and have dinner with our entrepreneurs and other people from around Cincinnati.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. And I look forward to seeing that at some point.
We'd love to have you.
Thank you. Okay, so I just showed Candice this photo that I took of her and her husband in Cincinnati at the Innovation Hub last summer when I visited them. Some of you know I was on a road trip for almost 2 months last summer, and one of my key stops was Cincinnati because it's one of the Midwest new tech hotspots. So I visited them at the Innovation Hub and learned all about their new fund. $50 million fund that they are completing. They had a first close in June. They are focused on underrepresented founders in the Midwest with an untraditional approach, which we'll find out a little more in a minute about. They're investing in all these great sectors: e-commerce, healthcare, AI, food tech, ad tech, consumer goods. They have accelerators in these 3 cities, Detroit, Cincinnati, and Tulsa. They also have an office in Indianapolis. And so if you want to pitch to Lightship Capital and their new fund, because they are actively investing, you can go watch their show, Twitch Pitch, which is online. Candice, when's the next show for Twitch Pitch? You're on mute.
Oh, that's okay. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So it's on Tuesdays and Thursday nights.
Okay, very good. I watched one of the shows. It's really fun. Now, if you also, another way to pitch them is on their website. And that's Lightship Capital or lightshipcap.com.
It is lightship.capital. I think we've almost hit the end of the road with .coms. So we ended up with a lightship.capital.
Oh, okay, good, good. How did you come up with the name Lightship? I was wondering about that.
So a few years ago when I was getting divorced, I went on a road trip. And I don't know, like some people are drawn to lighthouses. So I went on a walkabout through Michigan, the coast, the west coast of Michigan, around Lake Michigan. I started at the top at a lighthouse and worked my way down the western lake line of Michigan. Took my kayak and looked at a lot of lighthouses and learned about the history of them. As I was going through my research, I realized that there are also things called light ships. Those are on water to help to guide travelers as they're going. And so just from those moments in my life, I came up with the idea of Lightship and guiding entrepreneurs towards safety.
Oh, that's a great story. I love it.
Yeah.
We're going to be asking Candice some questions here, and this is our little cheat sheet about what we're going to be asking her. So I am going to be asking the audience to ask their own questions because I don't want to monopolize all these questions, but these are some questions I had on my mind. So why don't we roll into it, Candice?
Perfect.
Okay, and I actually, I did a little bit of editorializing here. I said this is her moment, and I really think it is. I mean, she has started this new fund. They have been able to get to a first close very quickly, which is amazing. They are going after a funding gap for minorities. And I want to ask you, Candice, why do you think there is a funding gap?
I think that a lot of it has to do with decision making. And unfortunately, we have an issue where decision making is all placed in the hands of one small group of people. People unfortunately have a tendency to hang around with and invest in people they are closely, intimately related to or with all the time. So people they know, like, and trust.
Sure.
And here in the United States, we're very black and white with things, from the way that we choose things to the people that we hang out with. And I think, unfortunately, we have a gap in venture capital funding because we've got boards that are not diverse. We have selection committees that are not diverse. And if you look at even like San Francisco and out in the Valley, like it's just not a diverse area of the country. And so we've got a gap because of those reasons. And now we're just at a moment in history where we're just looking to fix the gap.
Okay, so do you think that the Midwest, some of these cities like Cincinnati, Cleveland, Detroit, that there's more opportunity there than there might be on the coast for your kind of fund?
Look, I'm from the Midwest and I love the people here. And there are pockets of kind of segregation, right, throughout this area of the country. But I will say that I would not be able to raise my fund anywhere else in the country. I am surrounded by amazing people, mentors from different funds who are helping me to grow what I'm growing. And I think that maybe just Midwesterners have the patience to teach others. Maybe the pace is just a little bit different. It doesn't mean it's wrong, but it's just different. And people here answer the phone. I can text message some of the C-suite at some of our Fortune 100s if I wanted to. If I have a question, people answer. They do coffee meetings. And so no one feels like they're at a level above someone else. And I think that that is just a mentality that we have in the Midwest, is to help our neighbors.
Yeah, I agree. Because I can relate to that since I'm from not that far from where you grew up. And I definitely relate to that. So in your fundraising, do you think that the timing helped? There was that last summer and last year, I mean, and then there's continuing unrest today, the whole Black Lives Matter movement. Do you think that that's helped you in the fundraising? And can you talk a little bit about that? What kind of response you had on your fundraising?
Yeah, I think that, so we were set up to start fundraising before George Floyd's murder. All of our paperwork was done. We had our first small investment into the fund before that happened on May 25th of last year. But I will say that that inflection point changed the viewpoints of lots of different organizations.
Okay.
Foundations took a new look at the way they were investing their dollars. Family offices were thinking the same way, and corporations obviously made big statements around the Black Lives Matter movement. So yes, it was an inflection point. I think that it allowed us to go beyond our cap. So we originally had planned on raising a $20 million fund with a $50 million hard cap. Very quickly, we were able to kind of pivot that and then move to the $50 million number because of the way that the world changed last year.
Right, right. Yeah, your first close was 22 million, right?
That's right. That's right.
And your anchor LP was a group called Second Muse Capital. And how were you able to link up to them?
Yeah, so Second Muse, we met them last year, right after COVID got started, through just someone in our network. They had mentioned that the team at Second Muse was interested in investing into Midwestern diverse funds. And so we kind of fit that. There weren't very many at that moment in time. And I can say that I think there are only two kind of funds that there's only one fund led by a diverse group, but there are two funds in the state of Ohio that are focused on diversity and kind of Midwestern companies. So us and a group called Jumpstart. So we were introduced to them that way and then created a relationship, just kind of being on Zoom. And that's how we landed that deal.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. And I know you have actually had some help from a New York attorney as well, who is has a group called First Close Partners, which is helping funds like yours get their first close. So
that's exactly right. I've been linked with that group for a few years now. I was first introduced to the idea of the fund through Ed Zimmerman, who's a member of that group. He has been mentoring many VCs of color for the last few years. And before I even started the fund, when I just kind of aspirationally wanted to have the fund, he did little things like inviting me to events and just emailing and involving me in committees so that I can better understand things. And, you know, it took a few years for me to get to where I needed to get to, but he had the grace to allow me to grow into this position. And then when it was time, he rallied a group together to help with an investment into the fund.
Oh, excellent. Well, he's listening in and he just on the chat just saying,
wow. I always get so embarrassed, but yes, absolutely. He's a really, really cool guy.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I spoke to him a few weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, and for what I'm working on. So anyhow, when do you think we're going to have like the Oprah Winfrey in the tech business among minority startups? When are we going to see somebody like an Oprah Winfrey?
I think she exists. I think she's out there somewhere. I think she's building a company right now. And if I think about the Foundation R portfolio or my peers who started companies before I got here, she exists. We just haven't given her all the opportunity that we need to. So she's out there. Like, I truly love and respect Jewel Burke, who's over at who's at Google currently, and building Collab Capital. She is an absolutely wonderful human being. She's had an exit to Amazon. And I think that her next time around, she's going to build something bigger and better. We've got a young lady here in in Columbus, Tanisha Robinson. She's had several great exits. She's working on her next thing. And so, you know, many people that we see exit, they're serial entrepreneurs. So we're just waiting for someone to make it. But she exists. And I would say she probably exists right in this very moment.
Okay. And when do you expect to see the first unicorn among this demographic?
Oh, it's happened already. There have been several. I'm trying to think who just had their IPO the other day, and I'm sorry that it's not coming top of mind because I am heads down with this fund. But we had a Black CEO founder, IPO just within the last 2 weeks.
Okay. All right. So we're seeing that already then. So when we say minorities, we're talking about women, we're talking about blacks, we're talking about lesbians, gays, the whole community, right? I mean, you are really painting a broad picture here. So why did you decide to make it so, I guess, inclusive?
Because no one should be left out. So unfortunately, I don't know, if we think about the demographics of the United States, there are lots of different people, but for some reason, all of our venture capital has been going to one group of people, and that is white men. But I'm trying to think, what, 85% of the country are not white men. So that's everyone else. So I'm just kind of focused on that demographic.
Yeah.
I'm in a pretty good spot. Because intelligence, I say this all the time, and lots of people say it, intelligence is distributed equally. Opportunity is not. And so there are plenty of people that I can go out to. Just the other day, a group reached out to me, and it's 3 lesbian founders. They're starting a new company. They're at their prior company, they raised $150 million. They approached us because they said, hey, we wanted to come to you first before we started fundraising. We heard that you have the reputation for not having bias toward people like us. And the last time we went out to fundraise, it was a struggle. Well, I'm like, well, I'm sorry. Now they've built 3, well, this will be their 3rd, and I'm certain a very successful company. They shouldn't be running into this issue on company number 3. Yeah. I'm really not certain why we've been kind of built as really a country of Christianity, where we're looking to kind of like treat people better, but we're not treating everyone better.
Right.
I come from a family where we really talked about kind of love is love. I come from a Black family, but love was just the most important thing, and loving your neighbor. And that's where I come from. I'm Buddhist. I believe that we are all connected, and there's no reason we should treat anyone differently. So if I'm going to go out and invest, I want to invest in the people who've been overlooked for so long. And that is Black, Indigenous, people of color, people who identify as women, not just women, people who identify as women, those in the LGBTQ community, and those who have disabilities. And that is the majority of the country, and they have been left out.
All right. So we've been in the midst of the Black Lives Matter movement. Now we're also in the midst of the Stop Asian Hate. So are you also going to be investing in Asian startups, or people of Asian descent, and then is that part of your mandate as well?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So through our accelerator, during our 2nd cohort, we had an amazing young lady named Grace, who has a company called Warmaloo. It's a premature infant warming blanket. We've absolutely invested in her company in the past. We're looking for great companies. And so anyone, any person of color, we are investing in. I'm definitely vetting companies from Indian founders right now.
Okay.
And so really it's everyone. And we just want people to realize that just because we're Black GPs doesn't mean that we aren't vetting all people of color.
Okay. Okay. Right. So that's good to know. And I know that your husband, who you co-founded the Lightship Capital with, actually has a connection to Singapore. And I bring that up because we have people who are sometimes listening on our show from Singapore and Hong Kong and many overseas places, because our show is really global. So I just wanted to bring that up. So maybe someday you'll be also investing overseas. I don't know. Is that possible?
Maybe on fund 4 or 5. For now, I feel like I've got my hands full.
Yeah. You want to stay closest to what the things right? I mean, the demographic and the region I would imagine.
Yeah, but at some point, so the reason why he ended up with an office in Singapore with the company that he founded was through an acquisition. So I think that was the company's 2nd acquisition.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the engineering talent is there. So it's quite possible that one of our companies will at some point acquire a company that's from outside of the United States.
Sure. So how do you go about selecting the companies you want to invest in? How do you source them? How do you select them? What kind of criteria do you use?
So we have an inbound and outbound strategy. So inbound, everybody kind of comes to Lightship Capital, lightship.capital. And on the outbound side, we are sourcing deals from just really about everywhere. So co-investment partners. So we have a list of folks who have expressed interest in co-investing since we got started. We're going to universities to check, what they are commercializing. So that's always a constant search. We're talking to other general partners. We're going to accelerators. We're going to pitch competitions. And so it's kind of a constant search for companies. And then obviously we have our online pitch competition, Twitch Pitch. It's a little bit of a draw. We're on our 5th season right now. We've invested in the first 3 seasons. We're vetting someone from the 4th season. And so far this season has been fantastic. So, we're seeing thousands of viewers onto that show. And so lots of things are coming that way. So everybody funnels into the same website. So lightship.capital, as I said, we see about 2,000 deals a year, some good, some bad, but obviously we're finding some really cool ones. And then a small team of people, very, very small team of people of interns and analysts and junior and senior associates are combing through those along with Brian and I. And then, weekly we go through all the deals together, whittle them down, and then see who's going to go through due diligence. What are we looking for as thresholds? So most of our companies are approaching $100,000 in monthly revenue. Some are lower just simply because of the sector they're in. So if you think of an artificial intelligence company, it takes a long time to get to like actual revenue. When you're a consumer packaged goods company, it's a little easier to kind of prove the model by selling things online direct to consumer. So most companies are that way. So we're looking for traction or revenue, as I described, within our sectors or segments. As well, we're always looking for a fantastic founder. So as I said, that group of women who's been really grinding and building great companies. So we're looking for, people who've done it before, maybe some people who haven't, but they have that drive and determination behind them.
So then on your investor committee, it's you and Brian, and then you have another associate, right? So how do the votes, how are the votes divvied up?
Yeah, so there are 3 of us on the committee and 1 observer. So we have a venture partner. His name is Joey Wignaraja. He's out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. He formerly worked for one of our LPs at his family office. So he's kind of like our senior person that sometimes helps us to rethink some of the things that we're working through, which is fantastic as an emerging fund manager. So there are 3 of us on this committee. Lexi gets 1 vote, Brian gets 1 vote, and I get 2. If we have a tie, we talk through things. But I get more votes, and you only need 2 votes to get through.
So is Brian okay with you getting 2 votes?
Well, it is my company. And so he is fine with that. I can also say that he defers to me on kind of selection. If we look at my track record, not necessarily what I've invested in, but the selections I've made early over time, I have made some big bets, and it may not have made it through the other committees I've been on, but those companies are on track to be unicorns.
Okay, what's a good example of that?
PlayVersus.
Okay.
If you're familiar, it's an esports company. They went through our committee a couple of years ago. At our accelerator, and unfortunately the other members of the committee didn't think that one was going to fly, and here we are. They're doing fantastically.
Oh, they are? Okay. Did they become a unicorn or not?
I think they're definitely on track. I'd have to check their last fundraise, but they've raised a few $100 million so far.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So tell us a little bit about some of your investments. I mean, since you've got the knack for picking these companies, tell us how you do that. Tell us some of your winners in your portfolio.
So far, let's see. So I have lots of favorites. They're all my babies, but one that some people know is a company called Healthy Roots Dolls. Healthy Roots is a doll that helps young Black girls better love their hair. They just recently sold out in Target stores, in Target.com. They've been kind of featured on the Today Show and Good Morning America. They had their just first big banner year last year, and really look forward to their Christmas season this year will be pretty big. We invest in a company called Prove, a progesterone ovulation test, the first urine diagnostic test for women to test for their progesterone levels when they're struggling with fertility. That was FDA approved last year. That company started out in Target stores in California last year and now has national distribution and is doing incredibly well. I think we'll see them raising a new fundraising round here soon. Who else? Let's see. Caremobile, mobile dentistry company. So they started out as one van when we met them just a few years ago, went through our programming here in Cincinnati. They're now in 10 markets around the country. And we're looking to expand out to some other areas as well. They actually are doing a pilot in the Detroit area right now with Ford Motor Company and Delta Dental, doing and providing better oral care for children in the Detroit area. We actually have a giveaway going on right now of a $150,000 dental van to give away to a rising dentist who wants to start a new practice. So that one is a personal favorite. Haute Hijab, which is a hijab company. It's America's only hijab company for modest dressing Muslim women. They'll soon be expanding internationally. They do sell all over the globe, but they're going to kind of move into some new markets internationally as well. So those are just a few of the companies we've invested in so far.
Yeah, it's really a diverse group. But you found most of them on your pitch show, right?
So 3 of the 9 we found through the show. Some were existing relationships and other have just come through the funnel.
Okay. All right, then. What about getting co-investors to come on board with you when you invest in these kinds of companies? Have you had, I noticed that you had Backstage Capital in several of your deals as a co-investor. And so that was interesting. And then, but most of them didn't, I mean, I noticed some coastal VCs in, I think, one of your deals. Bessemer was in there as an example. But what are you seeing from the coastal venture capitalists? Are they coming into these kinds of deals, or what's been your experience in dealing with this aspect of it? Because I think, you know, if you can get the coastal VCs in with their larger funds, that this could really, you know, tip the balance.
Yeah, I mean, I can say, so look, we're emerging fund managers and we're investing at a seed stage and a Series A. So seed, bridge to Series A and A. Here we are at this stage. I can say that maybe it's just through great selection and maybe it's a little bit of luck. We have either led these rounds or participated in the rounds. Every company that we've invested in so far has raised at least $1 million. And we have very easily found co-investors. So far, let's see, 6 of the 9 investments we've made so far have involved coastal VCs, and that is with very little help from us. The founders that we support are great fundraisers. Of course, we've shared those deals with other people, but we haven't had to force our way into closing these rounds. But because I'm new here and maybe just from seeing this happen to lots of other people, I recognize that at Series A, this is going to get harder. And lots of people, especially women and people of color, experience a Series A crunch and find difficulty with raising funds at that level. So that's where our work is going to come in. And I think that's where the work of a lot of our LPs is going to come in with their support. And you mentioned Backstage Capital. Actually, Arlen is one of our LPs. And so, you know, she's looking for great deal flow too. And so she's getting into these things early, but then also letting us, you know, kind of invest, you know, some of her capital that she's built up over the last few years.
Yeah. So I noticed that there's been a lot of fundraising in this demographic recently. Several minority-led venture firms have closed new funds over the past 2 years, like Carlin Capital and several others. And so what do you think? Is this kind of a trend now, or what's your perspective on it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I feel as if maybe trends come and go. I just think this is the new reality more than anything.
Okay.
Reality is that we'll just start seeing more women and people of color closing significantly larger and larger funds over time, and then proving to the world that they are just as smart as everyone else, and are diverse in their thinking, and diverse in their selection. And through that, we're not putting all of our eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that over for the next at least 10 to 20 years, these particular funds will over-index. That's just, I think, fact of the matter. People are going to get left behind if they continue this thought process of doing the same thing over and over. So I think that at least for the next 10 to 20 years, you're going to see diversity of thought winning.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that the Midas list just came out, and there were 12 women who were made into the top 100. And I noticed also that 8 of them were from China. So, I covered China very early on when nobody believed that the China market could amount to anything. And of course, we know differently today. So maybe we're kind of, on that same trajectory with the minorities and also the Midwest. 2 angles. You've got the minority angle and the Midwest angle, both. Which do you think is more challenging to tackle? Kind of the gap in funding, because I think there also is a gap in funding for Midwestern entrepreneurs.
It might be the Midwest. I mean, it's just really tough to fill around. It's easier to move people around than it is an entire section of the country.
Yeah.
Just unfortunately, this is an issue for everyone in the Midwest.
Yeah.
It's just compounded when you're a minority. So yeah, it's fairly significant. We're tackling it at the state level in several states. We are in constant conversations with our friends in Ohio and Kentucky and Michigan and Oklahoma where we're doing some work. And everyone's trying to figure out why there aren't enough seed funds to seed these companies. And a lot of it is just lack of foresight, and not, I guess, looking out to the coast and realizing how they were growing things. A lot of things were seeded. And so I think that we're now trying to backtrack and correct these issues. And as you know, here in the state of Ohio, we use our tax dollars to make pre-seed and seed investments.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we see that happening more and more in other states. And maybe people will use their dollars from the American Rescue Plan to make these things happen.
Right.
I think that we saw a little bit of that through the Jobs Act back in 10. And hopefully people are a little bit better at using these dollars this time around to really spur a lot of entrepreneurial work here.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that your fund got $5 million from the state of Ohio, the Third Frontier Commission. So that was a good thing.
That was a good thing. It was a lot of work, but yes, we did it.
A lot of work to get there. I know there must have been a lot of applicants for that program.
There were absolutely a lot of applicants. We've been involved with that organization though for the last 4.5 years through a different program. So we've known that group for a long time. And been making sure that we're working and molding our particular fund to fit that from our inception. So it was aspirational to do it, but I can definitely say we put in the work to make it happen. So anyone who got in at the last minute probably were kind of at a disadvantage because they didn't understand the program.
Okay. So I'm just looking at some of the chat that came in besides Ed Zimmerman's. Wow, thank you. We have a hello from Silicon Valley, Palo Alto, from Hal Kellman, who's actually has his own in LP, family fund that's an investor. So hello, how are you doing today? You can type in your answer here, or I just want to acknowledge you because Hal's a good friend, and he has listened in on our shows many, many times. She's doing fine. Do you have a question for Candice, based upon what you've heard so far? Okay, maybe not.
We may have caught him at dinner or something. Who
No,
knows?
no, I don't think so. It's too early. How is here?
Oh, well, I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm being Ohio centric here.
Yeah, that's okay. We're taking up your dinner time. So anyhow, what tell us, I was just thinking as you were talking, you're tackling Midwest, you're tackling the minority, you're tackling this funding gap. It seems like you're tackling all the tough issues. Is this kind of in your personality?
It might be, Rebecca. it might be. It might be. I might like to I might like to fix things. I just don't like to see a problem in the world that no one is willing to solve. How many times have you been in a room and you see something bad happening? And some people stand around and don't do anything about it, and some people move forward. It's kind of like the hero. And I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that I'm the hero, but I am maybe just the good Samaritan. And so maybe that's quite possibly why this has happened. I have a few aunts who have been the women who've organized marches, right? So my Aunt Ruby and my Aunt Mo, I remember as a kid, every weekend after church, there was some sort of march they would make me go on. Who knew what it was for? It was for, returning citizens or poverty or crimes against children. We were marching for things. And so maybe it's just been in my DNA from my family, just kind of civil rights over the last few decades.
Okay. So what's your view on whether these old traditional Rust Belt cities are going to be able to transition to new tech, or is that just too much of a stretch?
Oh, I don't think it's too much of a stretch. I think that, a lot of this work is happening. I don't know if we're necessarily good at telling our stories at all. So there's a lot happening in Detroit around mobility. We may not be telling the story very well. In Cleveland, I was just there 3 weeks ago, and I met with a group that's doing innovation work around Case Western.
Okay.
And lots of people don't realize this, but like the spin brush was created in Cleveland. The Swiffer vacuum, which is the #1 selling vacuum in the United States, was created in Cleveland, like a few blocks from the lake.
Yeah.
Innovation is happening in all sorts of places. We're just not necessarily doing a great job of talking about it. I think I read just recently, the state of Ohio is putting $50 million into better telling our story. That's absolutely the issue we have, is our storytelling capabilities. We have lots of great IP. We're commercializing great things here throughout the Midwest. Obviously places like Carnegie Mellon are doing amazing things in artificial intelligence, but I don't know. I think maybe Midwesterners like to stay shy and we don't talk about things. I mean, we're not like our New York friends who are willing to puff up their chest and let them know who they are. Midwesterners are just more likely to just be like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. But we don't tell our stories. So until we do that, it won't seem as if we're doing anything big.
Right. Well, this was the same story that I saw in China in the early days, is that, they could innovate, but when it came to marketing, forget about it.
Exactly. So think about places like Miami, right?
Sure.
They've been innovating for years. They just weren't necessarily great at telling their story outside of tourism, right? So all we heard about was Miami Beach and pink buildings and all that stuff going on. And then finally they got a mayor of the city, I guess not the county, who suddenly just wanted to explode on Twitter. And then people were like, well, wait a minute, innovation is happening here. And they're like, yeah, we've been doing business for a long time. We may not have been telling the story of business because we were trying to just tell one story and not all the stories. And so I mean, I'm trying to think what university down there in Florida is churning out the most engineers that are people of color in the country. And no one knows about that, right?
Oh.
That's a great asset to have because people are concerned. If I move my tech company to Miami, will I be able to find tech talent? You absolutely will. And so I think all of the areas of the country just need to do a better job of storytelling about the assets they have.
Sure, sure. Well, your husband's company is based in Miami, and
It is, well, most of the team is in Singapore right now. Most of the team is in Singapore. A portion of it is in Miami, but I would say 75% of the company is currently in Singapore.
okay. Well, your husband founded the company in Miami, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think I know too much.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you two met at the Miami Tech Week.
We did. We met at Black Tech Week. We met as friends like 6 years ago, and then we reconnected 3 years ago at Black Tech Week after my first marriage ended. And then that was February 9th, and 6 weeks later we got engaged. So here we are now, 3 years into this.
Well, it's a great love story. I mean, and the fact that you're working together now is just incredible. And I think you'd really make a dynamic duo.
We have a great time. As long as he keeps wintering in Florida, we're going to last for the next 50 years.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. Distance really helps, doesn't it? Okay. So Will Allen has chimed in here from Pittsburgh, and Will Allen is an angel investor, and he's just joined Magaret Ventures, which is a new fund out of Pittsburgh. It's kind of a spin out from Draper Triangle, Tim Draper's fund. And so they're going to be investing heavily in the region as well. So anyhow, Will Allen says, super excited for Candice, Brian, and the Lightship team. They are brave, courageous, and exude elegant. Excellent. I'm so thankful they are investing in diverse entrepreneurs in the Midwest. Wow, that's a pretty big endorsement there.
Thanks, Will. Will's fantastic. We need to do more together. As soon as we get from heads down, we're going to be there visiting him and seeing the deals that he's got.
Okay. So someone else comments, John Delmar comments that IBM had a major hub in Boca Raton, now closed. But anyhow, yeah, it's interesting to know about this university in Miami. I have to check that out. Okay. Let's see. Let's move on. Someone had their hand raised a while ago, and that was Yifei Sun. Okay, could you unmute, please, so we can hear you?
Oh, it's me.
Okay, hi.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you.
Hi.
Yeah.
Where are you today? Are you in Silicon Valley?
No, I'm in Los Angeles. I'm already in Los Angeles.
Okay.
I'm still here. I'm not ready to travel yet, but we'll go someday.
Okay.
Yeah, Candice is nice. It's nice here and hear your good story, great stories. And I just read a report this morning, which is from Peach Book. Probably heard about it. And they just have a venture monitor, the quarterly report sent to my email, because
Okay.
I have connected with Ohio too. I went to University of Akron for 1 year. I got my master's degree and then moved on to SUNY Buffalo. So I stayed in that area for 5 years. In Ohio for 1 year and then Buffalo for 3 years. So we have connection there. But my question for you, just mentioned the Cleveland, that area, Columbus, and have lots of good stuff going on. Mm-hmm. But when I look at the map, also I have been studying the innovations landscape in the United States, in China as well, but never heard some big words about the Columbus. Even they have one of the best medical school, engineering schools, and like Cleveland, the same thing. You mentioned something about Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh used to be we heard of Pittsburgh a lot. Obama was there for 1 year to highlight the story of Pittsburgh. But it looks like it's quieting down since Rich Florida left. Kelly Mello moved to Toronto, and he's not talking about the Pittsburgh anymore. We need some big mouths from that area. Really, really.
Yeah, maybe Will Allen just heard that. Actually, we hope to have Will Allen on our show in the future to tell us more about what they're doing at Megarac. So one of the great things about their fund is it's named after a giant steel worker, Joe Magarac. Anyhow, there you go, Pittsburgh. So do you have a question for Candice?
Yeah, I have a question. The question is right now you mentioned, because I'm working on this project. Look at I just finished one piece in Chinese and talking about the Austin story. So I'm trying to highlight the stories behind the success and the failures of those American cities. So in this case, maybe I will talk to you. You think simply because people from that area are shy, are kind of, hey, they don't want to talk about, they're not like people in LA boast about themselves, do little, say lots of things, or you say something else?
Sure. I think it's true. I mean, I think I'll let Candice answer, but I think she did say that before. So, and I'll just let her answer now. Okay.
Yeah, I would say, it's a combination of lots of things. A lot of it is just to do with them not being able to see it happening yet, right? Like innovation, sometimes it takes someone else to get things started. I mean, if you think about how Silicon Valley got started, it was a very small group of people who got, the semiconductor industry off the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
And so without that group, it couldn't have gotten started. And I would say that in the Akron area that you're talking about, it's a very, very small community, and they have to kind of spark that at some point. There are entrepreneurial programs that are now kicked off there. I'm not sure what year you left, but throughout, and I'm sorry to kind of beat this Ohio drum over and over and then over my head. We have something called Ohio Third Frontier that offers programming in every city throughout the state. And some cities do it better than others. And some cities do a great job of attracting talent to teach us. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes you need to bring someone who has their own playbook to help you to grow something big. And so you've got people like Kwame at Drive Capital, who has deployed the most capital in the state of Ohio, that has experience out in the Valley and then has brought that back to the state. Yeah. And a lot of the work that he's done, or Rich Langdale, who was at NCT Ventures, they both have sparked a lot of activity in the Columbus area. I think Rich helped start the Ohio State's entrepreneurship program. So without people like that to bring it from somewhere to us, I think sometimes you don't get the spark that you need. Now, of course, there are going to be things that are grassroots and start on their own, but I think you just have to have a combination of both. And some people struggle with dreaming. And so if you grow up in a very small town and you don't know how to dream yet, and I know that sounds crazy, but not everyone knows how to think bigger. Right. And some of that starts at the school age, like where we're not teaching children how to be creative or innovative thinkers.
Right. Right. That's a good point. And I think that's where Silicon Valley has an edge, in that you're around a group of very imaginative kind of people who think anything is possible, and they are not afraid of failure either. And so that's part of the magic here, that I think the Midwest, it's not the same culture. So the Midwest will develop its own entrepreneurial culture, its own tech culture, I think, which will be different. And one of the things that I realized that stuck with me, that when I interviewed you earlier, when you said Cincinnati is my Silicon Valley. Tell us why. What's great about Cincinnati?
Well, Rebecca, you have been to Toledo. I grew up in a great hometown. Let me just start there. Toledo. I would not be the girl I am today without Toledo, but it is an economically depressed area. And I realized that when I was 18, when I was leaving high school.
Yeah.
And when I got to Cincinnati, you get here, you see this beautiful skyline, you see all of these professional sports teams. We didn't have that back home. And I didn't have that level of opportunity back there. And so for me, this is my San Francisco. We've got a great bridge, might be small, but it's a bridge. And it's been nothing but great for me. And I think that, look, we can't discount the fact that innovation is still happening in Cincinnati. Procter & Gamble isn't a small company. Innovation happens there every day. Kroger is not a small company. We're talking about what, the number 3 retailer in the world, when you combine all of their assets, and P&G being the number 1 consumer packaged goods services company in the world. And so innovation is happening here. It might not be a SaaS B2B company, but we're using these things in our household every day.
Right. And how Kalman points out that Fifth Third Bank in Cincinnati as well.
That's absolutely right. I can't forget about those friends.
I always, the name always amuses me, Fifth Third Bank, but I think it's at the corner of 5th and 3rd. Is that right?
Is that why that is? No. It's not. No. It's not. It's not. And maybe it started there, but it is not. No.
Okay.
But it is off of 5th Street for sure.
Okay. 5th Street for sure. All right. So yeah, that's interesting to see how these various cities transform. Toledo kind of got stuck in the past, and Cincinnati's making strides forward, and Columbus and the C's of Ohio, Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland making strides forward. So hooray for the C's. But anyhow, let me launch our poll, because we usually do a poll. And everyone can chime in and answer these silly questions, which are anonymous. So don't worry about your answer. And then I'm going to share the results as we go along. But the first one is, have you participated in any racial inequality demonstrations over the past year? Yes, no. Do you believe there is a gap in venture funding for minorities? Would you invest in the Midwest? And then this is a perennial. Have you received your vaccination yet? And if not, will you get vaccinated? Have you ever been to Ohio? Have you spent your stimulus check yet? Will you take a summer vacation like normal this year? Okay, those are our questions. I know that's really earth-shattering, but those are the questions. Okay, so the answers, let's just wait a minute for where everyone weighs in. Let me ask you, Candice, have you participated in any of these demonstrations over the past year?
I've not. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I have just personally choose not to.
Okay.
My protest happens other ways.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Okay.
I also have children, and so it's difficult for me to want to go out and do something that might put me in harm's way.
Of course.
Because unfortunately, not everyone demonstrating is there for the right reasons.
Yeah, I think we have seen that. Will you be taking a summer vacation like normal this year?
We will be doing a road trip, which is not normal for us. But yes, we will be going on vacation once my children get vaccinated. Okay. So yeah, we have to wait and see if something is approved for them.
Sure. Okay. So, all right, well, I think I'll just read off the results here. It's 1/3 have participated in a demonstration over the past year. Almost everyone believes there's a venture funding gap for minorities. Would you invest in the Midwest? More than 2/3 say that they would. Have you received your vaccination yet? 2/3 yes, 1/3 no. If not, will you get vaccinated? Okay, 83% say yes, and maybe, if not, will you get vaccinated? Maybe, that's 17%. So we got the 17% here, kind of on the borderline. Have you ever been to Ohio? 83% yes. Have you spent your stimulus check? That's half and half.
Well, some of us didn't get a stimulus check, Rebecca, so we didn't know how to answer it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Summer vacation, 83% yes. Wait a minute, 83% no. Hey, look, I'm such an optimist. I'm reading the yes into it. Okay, I'm going to end the polling now, and then I'll share the results out with everyone, and so you can.
Ooh, that number 3 kind of breaks my heart a little bit, but that's okay. We all invest.
Number 3, would you invest in the Midwest? That's because we have Hal Kellman on here, and he's not sold on the Midwest, I think.
That's okay. I can put my email in the chat, and Hal and I can have a conversation.
Okay.
But though he's full of great information, so
yeah.
Fifth National and Third National Bank must have combined at some point, which I think is actually like a great bit of knowledge that I'm going to use the next time I'm on Jeopardy.
Good. All right, stop share results. All right, any other points that anyone wants to bring up? So actually one attendee brought up the point that, look, the whole $1 billion aeronautics industry was built out of Dayton with the Wright brothers. So, I mean, we do have a history of innovation, right?
That's right.
But I still think that, that there is this funding gap. There is this, blinds. We have blinders on about the Midwest. It's kind of considered the flyover country by those on the coast who are, 3/4 of the funding goes to Silicon Valley and New York and Boston. And now Austin has picked up quite a bit, and very little for the Midwest, really. So I guess this actually gives you kind of an advantage, doesn't it?
I feel like we've got a great advantage. We just have to have money to make it like come to fruition.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, because that's what worked in China. I mean, the venture capitalists from Sand Hill Road went over to China, and they set up funds, and then they set up teams, and they set up offices, and and within a decade we saw these huge successes out of. It's because there was a lot of talent there, and then there was a lot of capital there as well, and it all coalesced. And of course, with China's economy very strong too. So if the Rust Belt economy picks up, we could see another emerging market.
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely agree that that's what's going to happen. At least that's what we've been selling our LPs. So.
Okay, good. That's good. That's good. Well, let me share my screen a little bit again. And so we're definitely, kind of in sync there. And let me share the screen again and see if we answered all the questions. Oh yeah, the thing about no board seats. You're not taking board seats when you invest.
It is not a requirement into all companies. There may be at some point a company where we will, but it is absolutely not a requirement.
Okay, why not?
It would be by choice. So some folks have asked us to join their boards.
Okay.
But we're investing in companies that we have conviction in. We may take board seats if we feel like we can guide a company to where they need to get to. But we want our entrepreneurs to select their boards and select the best team possible for them to get to the next stage. So it is not a requirement that we hold a board seat.
Okay, good. So we did the Q&A, we did the chat, we did the poll. I want to introduce our next Ask a VC session with Wei Jiang, who used to be with Zen Fund, and now he's set up his own new fund called Lightship Capital Partners. It's all about restructuring some of the US-China deals because there's been so much friction between US-China. So that's going to be really interesting. And then we're turning to India. as I said, we're global. So Sandeep Murthy will be signing in from Mumbai. And I've known Sandeep for many years, and he has invested in several Indian companies that went on to become, big size companies. And I think if you've been following the news, you saw that Grab, the super app from Singapore, is going public.
Oh,
And,
really?
yeah.
I think I might still have that on my phone from last time I was there.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So here we go from Singapore. It's another big success story. So, and I think Asia has a lead on a lot of these business model innovations, like the super app. Certainly, China was first with it, and then it spread over in Asia, and we're seeing it now a little bit more in the U.S. too, with companies like Uber and Uber Eats combining. So that's a little bit of our show, and I really appreciate everyone joining in, and I hope that you'll join us for our upcoming shows as well. And I would like to thank Candice for joining us and offering her words of wisdom, and I hope that we covered a lot of good points here. Do you want to add anything, Candice?
No, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And good luck with the book, or at least this next book that'll be coming out soon. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. And we'll keep you posted on that. It's been a good writing period because, usually I'm doing events overseas. And so I haven't been traveling overseas. So, it's one way to keep me busy and out of trouble. So, all right. Well, thank you again. And stay tuned for our next show. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.